Hello, welcome to Layback with Betfair. I'm Tom Haylock with the Sults. I'm back. Thanks to Miles for filling in last week. How did he go, mate?
Yeah, he went well. I can't remember any of the bets or anything, but we had a fun time.
You forgot the bets?
How did he go? I'm not sure, but we had fun. He's a good bloke.
He's a good bloke, and he did well. Thank you for filling in, Miles. Massive show coming up. Obviously, we're at Caulfield. We've got Group 1 race day there. Randwick as well. We've got another Group 1. It's a great day. A bit of weather around, a few showers, which may have an impact, Salts.
Yeah, there is. There's like 10 to 20 mils today at Randwick. And the track's currently a soft 5. We record this 11 a.m. Thursday morning, but I'd expect several downgrades, potentially to an 8, and then only 2 mils Friday clear race day. So I've sort of set up for around a 7 at Randwick.
23 degrees on Saturday, so it might be a drying track. It's really interesting to see what Zaki does in the big Group 1 there against Animo, that head-to-head battle. We've got a head-to-head market on betfair.com.au as well. Hopefully he runs because it's a mouth-watering clash. They've got the Grand Sprinter, Nature Strip's back against Eduardo. Another great race there. All happening, mate. Rupert Clarke, great race. Yep.
Yeah, rail 6 metres at Caulfield, and there's a bit of rain around in Melbourne over the next few days and on race day. And with the northwesterly blowing at Caulfield as well, that usually advantages horses that can set a one off the fence. So interesting to see how the track plays for a big Group 1 day at Rupert Clarke Day at Caulfield Saturday.
Yeah, we'll touch on that in a bit as well. We've got education series. We'll touch on track bias as well. So I look forward to chatting about that, how that impacts our wagering throughout the day and also doing the form. So talk a bit about that. We've got the weekly wash-up as well. Can't wait for all that. But let's get stuck into the lay-bin first up. Salts. You want me to go first because you've snuck in a look at what I'm laying here.
Oh, I haven't seen anything, mate. If I happen to counter you, it's just by chance.
I'll read your notes here. My first lay-bin, and this is why you're doing it, Collingwood supporters, but also Victorian football supporters, right? Suddenly they have to leave their state for a prelim final, God forbid, and they realise that price hike for flights and airlines put their prices up. Like, what about the interstate fans that do it every year for grand final? If their team's in it or if they want to come, they've got to pay the premium. Suddenly Collingwood supporters, Victorian footy fans are whinging about price hikes. Where you been the last 15 years?
Well,
come on, Salts.
See, this is the counter. It's a little bit of the argument, I got stabbed in the face, so you should get stabbed in the face too.
Yes.
So all the interstate fans can whinge about the flights going up, but then when it happens to Victorians and we whinge, they say, well, we're hard done by, so you have to be hard done by too.
I just don't think you realised the Victorian fans.
How about we all unite together and say the airlines are a joke? One, look at the way that Qantas in the news has been treating their employees. Look at the current state of airports and airlines in Australia. Not only are the customers being treated poorly, it's on record the staff are. So we need to band together and actually form an opinion against the airlines rather than going against each other state to state saying, well, that's supply and demand.
I'm glad you're good at what you do, mate, because you're not getting a job at the airport or airlines anytime soon.
They centralise the industry and think they can treat the participants and the customers as much as they want.
Put on more flights, get some more staff, treat it proper. I'm on your side, mate. One other lay-bin. And you told me not to say this. No, you didn't really. Pikey on Mr. Mozart. That's going in the bin. We talked about this off air. Awful ride. You played the jazz flute last show. I watched that. I tuned in. Made a good gif. Pikey was a pretty average ride, I thought. Could have followed Ellsberg into the race. Came out 3 deep. And then the horse was really good, actually. Kicked on to run second. But wasn't his best tactical ride, I wouldn't have thought. Salts, you don't have to say too much if you don't want.
Within reason, wherever Mr. Mozart goes second up, he'll win.
It was a big run. It was a big run.
Yeah.
It was good the track played fair on Saturday. Any other sort of lay-bin? Are you putting track bias in the lay-bin?
I'm putting track bias.
Track bias?
Yeah, track bias. So last week I was actually a little bit terrified because the rain that I'd set up for at Rosehill didn't come. It ended up being a soft 5 with the rail 5 metres. I was a bit scared it was going to be rails in run because I sort of hadn't set up for that. After 2 races, 2 leaders had won. But they were just the better horses on the day. And I know the first one in the highway was a big price, but people sort of jumped the gun early about the bias and then they couldn't get out of their head. Even by the end of the card, I was still seeing complaints about Rosehill being a hot leaders track. Rosehill on the weekend was as even as it gets. I know that a few weeks ago we touched on the fact that the outside grass was longer and it wasn't good enough. So when it was good enough, like it was on the weekend, I think we need to acknowledge that as well. And talking about track bias when it's just flat out doesn't exist is a bit of a cop-out.
It's almost a double-edged sword because there's so frequently bias. People are actually looking for something that's not there as well, trying to find an edge. I don't mind the fact they're trying to find an edge, but you don't overplay it. And that's your point.
Yeah, exactly.
Don't go looking for something that's not there.
Yeah.
I agree with you. I thought track played brilliantly. And race 1, the highway, I thought a few horses made ground out wide on the track. I thought the track played really well. I wasn't identifying a bias after race 1, definitely. I thought the track played really well. Let's get stuck into Caulfield. Soft 5 or 6, depending on how much rain's forecast or falls. 3 to 6 millimetres forecast on the day. It'll be a warm 15 degrees at Caulfield, mate. Get your singlet out. Rail out 6 metres. As you alluded to earlier, the track may suit those kind of off fence is the way I've kind of read the track. And you've seen this with the rail out. On days that the rain falls, the inside can chop out and they get wider and wider as the day progresses. Is that how you're seeing it?
Yeah, I am. With that rain as well, the inside chopping out, the northwesterly is key. So when you're coming from a shoot start, the northwesterly sort of head cross as well. So if you're on the rail, you're getting hit from the side. If you're leading, you're copping it all. So I think from particularly those shoot start races, off the fence and some cover. Perfect. And then like 1400 as well. I know it's a short run to the first turn. You just want to be covered up before you make that run down the back and off the fence would be an advantage, I reckon.
Good shout, good shout. Well, let's get stuck into the first race, the Caulfield Guineas Prelude preview it is, 1400 metres, Group 3, race 4 on the card. Really tricky race. We've got Af Cabin, a short price favourite though. Was 14 back to 1200 metres last start, was very good, beaten by Jacquinot. It was a brilliant race. Jacquinot was enormous. Where are you siding in the Group 3 there, mate?
Well, I think Af Cabin will be hard to beat. Well, I spoke about the fact in that show that if I was going to be against him, it was because of the fact that he was 14 back to 12. I actually was against him because I thought he was going to be 2 or 3 pairs back, but Jamie Carr gave him a lovely ride.
Got out the right time.
Yeah, he was held up at a key stage for a horse that's coming back in trip. I thought,
spot on.
Yeah, I thought once he was out, he ran on like he wanted to go up in distance again. So I think the 1400 metres will suit him and he looks really hard to beat. Another one, Japanese Emperor, the market absolutely smashed him. He was 41 into 13 on debut. So how much can we read into that? Well, he produced what the market thought he was going to an extent. Yeah, he was held up fastest last 6, 4 and 200 metres of the day. Sandown 1200 metres, heavy track. He just gets back, so we'll need some luck in running. But I think the winner will come from one of those. The one I'd be against first up 1400 is Osipenko coming down from New South Wales. Now, the form around him's good. His trials have been good and Kibau or Cabot, however you want to say it.
Yep.
Yeah, beat him at his last start.
I think Caboo's a star, but that was back in the autumn. So
I'd put to paper, he's a rightful Golden Rose favourite, and then 3 minutes later he came out for the spring. So that form's good.
Futures punting.
Yeah, but that inside barrier I think is going to be a negative, giving away some fitness as well.
I'm leaning to laying Af Cabin just at the price. I think there's a lot more chances than the market's giving credit for. Af Cabin's about the 250 mark. I thought he's entitled to be longer than that. I can see he's back to 1400 metres. He might even be looking for further now. But I think there's enough chances in this race that I could get him longer, and that's the way I'm playing it. I couldn't touch the 240, 250 at the moment. I'm with Osipenko on top. Concede Barrier 1's a huge concern. We just talked about track bias and track pattern. We'll get 3 races on the day already to see how the track plays. At least he'll get cover, so he won't be affected by the wind in that regard. He might be on the side. But I think he's really talented. He comes with that Sydney form. He was in the market last week before they scratched, and a few people with good judges were tipping him last week in Sydney. I think he can run really well here. I just think that form's good enough to run well behind Caboo. I loved his run over 1400 metres at start 2, and he's got a lot of talent. Damien Lane on board. Just want to watch the track and see how the track plays there. That's the key concern from Barrier 1. I also like Amenable. Hit the line strongly last time, has a lot of upside, ran the fastest final 200 metres of the race off a long break. He's entitled to be fitter. I like the way he savaged the line there, up to 1400 metres. I think's a really good shout. I concede he's a nice play there. It's double figures. So
he's in the right yard to improve second up, isn't he?
And he's that one that's drawn wide, can find cover, can hit the line strongly and let down out wide and blend into the race out from that barrier 11. So it might not be the worst place. So I'm going inside and outside barriers.
Positive jockey change?
No comment.
We were just talking about that. No comment. No offence.
No comment.
I was only joking, by the way.
No offence to Paddy Maloney. No, Oliver's a
Group
star.
1, rocking horse.
It was. It was. That was a good ride on the fence. That bias, talking of track bias, that was the day in Newmarket when he came down the inside fence on the Travelator. I'm with Osipenko and Amenable, probably laying off cabin at the price. I think $280, $3. I might start looking to back him, but just at $240, $250, too short for me. Let's get to the Group 2 1,000 guineas. This should be in the lay bin. Why is the Caulfield Guineas preview Group 3 and the 1,000 Guineas preview Group 2? There's a little nuance. I think the fillies have rated better over the years, so it gets a higher.
Yeah.
There you go.
What's going on there?
You didn't notice that?
Well, no, I didn't notice that, mate. But that's ruined my Thursday now. I'm flat out. So
you're flat. You're done.
That's sexist.
The 1,000. It is 1,000 Guineas preview 1,400 metres. You are with number 5 Boogie Dancer, if I'm not mistaken.
I thought she was good coming back in trip at Moonee Valley last start. She had the advantage of the inside, which was an advantage on the day. It wasn't an easy day to run on and make ground, but she was back, and just her work through the line was really good. She closed hard. It was a race fastest last 200 metres. She got a tricky gate on the weekend, but again, going to be settling off the fence. She is quite versatile, and the yard watchers were saying that even though she had some race fitness and was back in trip last start, she still presented with some improvement to come. I think they must have gone easy on her in that break because they want to get her to 1,600 metres and the 1,000 guineas as well. So they're going easy on her, kept her fresh. Now she's to 1,400 metres. If I had to have a bet in the race, I'd be with her. But looking at the race, it's pretty difficult.
Find me a harder race.
It's very difficult.
$7 a field on betfair.com.au. It's actually ridiculous. Big field. 18 acceptors, 1 early scratching in Madam Pomeroy. You've got a New Zealander, She's Lickety split as favourite. And then you've got Sydney form off heavy tracks. You've got Melbourne form off Moonee Valley. It's form coming from everywhere. I found it very hard, but that said, I'm with Russian Conquest. I like the way this horse was trialling in Sydney before that first up run. Now, that was a day, again, we'll talk about track bias a lot in this episode because Randwick 2 weeks ago on the 3rd of September was fence only. You had to be fence in run. This horse didn't find the fence, drew wide there, complete forgive. Jamie Cargo's on board, positive jockey change. She's a star. This horse has been well backed in early markets. I think entitled to be right up there. Don't forget this horse started $2 in a Riesling against Seven Vales and ran second to Coolangatta in a Magic Millions 2-year-old, trialled the house down before this campaign, just hit that heavy 9, heavy 10 track on that bias day. Complete pen through that. I think entitled to be shorter and probably favourite. So Russian Conquest for me there. Anything to add?
No.
Move on. The Group 3 MRC Foundation Cup 2,000 metres. Really interesting race. I'm disappointed Alias has been scratched here because I thought it was a really good bet at $17, $20, but runs in Sydney instead.
I saw him here and he was one that off his first up run, getting back and charging home, that I wanted to follow. He's 14 to 2,000 metres in both the races as well this weekend. So it's a little bit hard to have, but I did think he set up well in this race. One that I'm not in love with the setup is Uncle Bryn. So he was good against the pattern at Moonee Valley last start behind Military Expert. Touched on the fact that you needed to be on the fence. It was a big advantage to leaders, and he was neither of those. He ran on quite well, but he's yet to win over 1,700 metres.
That's not true, actually.
In his career, isn't it?
No, he won over 1,900 early in international career.
Uncle Bryn, 19.
When he was overseas.
19, yeah. On a synthetic track, sorry. Yeah. I meant on the turf.
Yes,
on the turf.
Oh.
Yeah. It's
technicality.
Little asterisks. But, well, he's yet to win over 1,900 metres.
Yep.
And yet to win over 17 on the turf. And I just thought the way he got through the line last start, yes, he was good, biased against, but there's some horses here that are really suited at 2,000 metres. And he's another one with barrier 1 that's he's got no early speed. Well, if they want to use him up early, well, then he probably won't get the 2,000 metres.
Yep.
And if they don't, well, he ends up 3 back on the fence, which I think is going to be a disadvantage. It's a really even race. There's heaps of runners, Emissary, Midnight Blue, Smoke and Romans. Shiraz was quite good first up, Gold Trip. Like, there's some really effective horses at this distance range where I just thought at his current price is about $4.80. It was a bit short.
I'm in agreement with you. I think too short. I thought he had his chance. I know he was wide around the home turn last start at Moonee Valley, but I thought he petered out late.
Well, it was the fourth fastest last 200 of the race as well. So yeah, I know it was against the pattern, but
he just looked to
didn't
peak.
savage it,
I know Mellon was pretty easy on him last 50 when he had second, but Military Expert was cruising. I don't think Military Expert would be favourite in this race, to be honest.
No way, no.
Maybe on the back of that win, but before that race, I don't think he will be. So I think the fact that he's an international now, stepping up in trips, factored into that price. I agree with Barrier 1. I think he's too short for me. I thought he had every chance last start, despite being a little bit wider around that home turn, and he was pretty weak. He got annihilated late. So I'm with you. I think Gold Trip might be the bet if I'm keen to play. I was pretty keen Alias, as I said, but Gold Trip was fantastic. I'm not sure if he runs here or Sydney yet.
So there's a bit of that going on this weekend.
Bit of
there?
that. So we should put that in the lay bin.
Between Randwick, Newcastle, and Caulfield, dual acceptors everywhere.
We should put dual acceptors in the lay bin. Actually,
yeah,
that's a good shout.
It's a bit of a free hit though. It's a bit easy.
Thursdays,
but I love low hanging fruit.
Trainers should identify, especially interstate, by Thursdays. They should know whether they're coming or not. Surely.
Well, you're not you're not giving the float man 2 minutes notice, are you?
No, surely not.
Yeah.
If you're not going to run, scratch. Gold Trip for me on top. If runs, not a race I'm too keen to play into. Other than I think we're both in agreement that we're laying Uncle Bryn there. The big one, the Group 1 Sir Rupert Clarke 1400 metres. What a race it is. I'm pretty keen to play in this race. It's a big field. We've got an emergency as favourite. We've got emergency about that $13 mark as well. I Wish I Win is favourite, second emergency. Does he get a run?
Well, I don't know. Who are the two that are coming out? It's
weather might impact if there are. If there's a bit of rain.
Potentially a horse like I'm Superman doesn't love the wet, but was quite effective first up, and it's a bit of a guessing game, and it makes it impossible, in my opinion, to assess the race now, because if he gets a run, I Wish I Win, I'll back him.
Yep.
Because I loved what he did first up. He ran virtually identical time on the day to Snapdown, so I know he had 54 and she carried weight for age, but it was a big win.
High rating.
Yeah, his closing fractions were outstanding, and if we're talking being back to like you've already won on a Saturday Metro race, you don't see many like it. 650 into 240 or something like that. Like the market knew this was a good horse and he delivered on it. Jamie Carr sticks, her strike rate with Peter Moody's outstanding, and I think he just slots in that running line midfield and goes past them. One at a price I could make a case for is Red Cam Man.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, he backs up out of the Bobby Lewis. Dollar for dollar backed up out of the Bobby Lewis and placed a year or so ago.
Yeah, they've got a good record, those backing up from the Bobby Lewis, but I don't know if it was a strong Bobby Lewis this year.
And what he did last start, I just thought he's looking for 1,400 metres. He faced the breeze down the straight at Flemington, and if you just look at his work through the line, the Quinella went past him, but then he just comes back on him. He sort of didn't sprint with him, but he came back. There was just a bit in it to tell me. I know he's got a sticky gate, but he probably comes into 13, I think, if those emergencies don't get a run. He'll go forward. He'll need some luck to slot in, but I think he's a sneaky each-way hope, Red Cam Man. I don't think the stable are making a mistake by backing him up.
Fair commentary. Showmanship for me on top, number 10. What's this horse done wrong? He's 1-8 from 10. I love what he did in the Show County off a slow tempo there. Went to Randwick, dodged the wet tracks here. Just doesn't need it a heavy. If it's a soft 5, I think it's perfect for showmanship.
Yeah.
I know what he did in the Wongome on that heavy 10 was a really good run off a long break, to be honest. But I prefer him on a soft 5 or 6, which I think we'll get. Oliver's jumping on board. No knock there, obviously. Drawn perfectly, barrier 10, gets that cover, blends into the race. He's a winner. He savages the line. What he did last start in Sydney was fantastic. I know he only beat Prime Candidate Rocketing By, but the sectionals were fantastic. They went 4.7 lengths slower to the 600 there, and he sprinted home in really good sectionals. I think he's a horse to beat. I can't fault him. I'll be with him either way if I Wish I Win runs. I'll probably tip I Wish I Win on top if I was tipping.
Yeah.
But just price point, I think Showmanship's twice the price. I think it's a better bet.
What's his price, Showmanship?
$10?
Yeah. So
$9?
He's started in the red in most of his starts. He's been favourite in, I think, I don't know, How many starts has he had? 10 or something?
It's 10 starts,
yeah,
8
so he's
wins.
Nine starts as favourite. The only time he wasn't favourite was off a long break in the Wangumi, went 4.57, ran a stormer.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like he's one for the SP profiles.
He's a star in his own right. I mean, go back 5 starts ago, he started at $1.10.
Flying over here as well, the Cerise and White.
Put him in the lay bit. Yeah, correct.
If he doesn't place, he'd be on the bloody ship home. Cross the Nullarbor, back you go, mate.
That's right. Yeah, it was amazing price last start too in that show county. It was a weak race, nothing there to win, and he went around at 3.30. It was a real hit and run. I think he's the horse to beat for me, especially if I Wish I Win isn't in the race. The other one I want to back at a huge price is Halal. Now, this is a horse that they may scratch. We know Hawks.
Okay, yeah.
Hawks will see barrier 20 and go, nah. But fence off, he could find the right spot here, roll forward, lead, settle outside lead. I know there's a bit of speed in the race. You've got... We've got Tuvalu, Acer, Buffalo River, Callsign Mav. There's enough pressure. Red Cam Man will be up there as well. Halal can slot in if there's a lot of speed, but I don't mind it off fence if he finds cover and gets the right spot. I think it's $20. I think it's a huge price. He's run behind Animo and Fangirl, and the Wink Stakes is fantastic.
Yeah.
He's 20-1 here. There's no Animos or Fangirls in this race, so
it's a fair dart, and even like he proved that wasn't a fluke. He was beaten 2.5 by Animo last start, but he was only knocked off by 0.2 of a length by Animo last preparation as well. So yeah,
correct.
He's a good horse.
And beat home Converge, who went on to win a Randwick Guineas.
Yeah,
so I think his form line's superb. I know he's going around a huge price for a horse, but still got upside, and it's maybe just the barrier, but it might not be the worst place come race 7. So
this is what you love about handicaps, though, because you can make a case for almost every horse.
Correct.
That's why
it's a great race.
That's why they're great. I love handicaps. I'm flat that they got rid of the Cantala as a handicap, and they're just great races to bet into.
I'm flat at the weight scale these days. That should be in the lay bin. You've got 5 kilos between them. Back 15, 20 years ago, a horse would carry 60 and something would be with 48, right? Now the minimum weights and the high weights condenses the handicap, so they're not as good as they used to be potentially.
I'm not Sults carpenter, so I'll stay out of that.
Race 8, how now? Have you done this race, mate?
Yeah,
I'm now 1,200 metres, Group 3.
I'm just going to duck off and make some toast if that's all right.
You're not a fan of the race?
No, I
think it's a great race.
No, obviously I looked at the race, but
I think it's a great race.
I just can't. I can't have a firm opinion on anything. There's no way I'm laying the favourite Chain of Lightning because she just keeps improving every time she gets to the track, and she probably gets a similar. I know she's drawn barrier 11, but shoot start, she'll cover up off the fence and be able to run on down the middle. So there's no way I'd be against her. A horse like She's All Class, I thought out
could
of that,
run last or could win by 2.
Yeah, I thought she might have gone to that mare's race over 1,400 metres at Flemington last week, the way she hit the line. But they're obviously like keeping her to the sprint trip. She was good.
Caulfield last start too.
Yeah, Written Beauty's jumped out really well. So there's a host of chances. It's like I just can't have an opinion on it.
My initial thought was to lay Chain of Lightning at the price.
Yep.
Then I did the map, and we talked about speed maps, and you and Fitzy talked about speed maps last week. I did the map, just probably lobs into the perfect position. So it put me off a little bit. Probably Lavish Girl rolls forward, leads, Chain of Lightning settles outside lead. It might be the best place to be. Whereas the likes of the horses that I wanted to be with when taking Chain of Lightning on, Zapateo and Written Beauty, they're going to be back and in the ruck. Written Beauty's drawn 4, comes into 3, I think. Probably maps inside 3 back the fence. Awful map, but I wanted to be with her. So I agree with you. It's very tricky.
It's an interesting one with Zapateo. If she didn't run in that last start against Eduardo, and she came here fresh off the back of what she did fresh at Randwick, what does she start? But then you just got to. It's really a guessing game to factor in what is that taken out of her, because it's a very testing track.
And
she was so good fresh.
She was so good fresh. Yeah. And it's completely, this is a challenge this week, coming off Randwick a fortnight ago, and we'll get to Randwick this week. Fence on fire. Zapateo didn't have the fence in run. Complete forgive. Settled 4th outside its stablemate there. Didn't have fence in run and weakened out, but there was a complete forgive. The stablemate Andermatt was heavily backed against Eduardo and was never mapping on the fence. So it was a bizarre firm there. Zapateo's a chance. Was $6 against Eduardo last start, if you don't mind. Eduardo would be $1.20 in this field. So, Zapateo, 6. You got to respect that SP. It's one for the starting price profile. I probably lean to Written Beauty. I'd convinced she's flying. Second campaign for Waller. Coming off a Queensland prep, we've been talking about that. Loved her trials. Major player. Just needs luck from that barrier. So she's on top for me in the How Now Stakes. Let's get stuck into some wash up or education. Wash up first. We'll get to education in a minute. Couple of things from last week. Colleen, no. Your horse that you laid, you would have been very nervous with 40 metres to go when Colino hit $1.01, if you don't mind, mate.
I was licking my lips, mate.
I
told you he doesn't get 1,800.
Doesn't get 1,800 metres.
And it was shepherd's pie in my knickers.
Who was the winner there?
Per Ivy, something.
Yeah, blue and white down the middle.
And white,
with Pikey on board, hit a massive play as well. Massive price in play. So Colleen, no, $1.01, got beaten. I still don't know how that happened. Bloodbath, Alligator Blood. What a race this was. Alligator Blood had $1,700 or more, over $1,700 traded at $1.04 or less. Looked all over a winner. I'm thunderstruck, hit 50s in play or around that figure. Stormed home, huge win. How did that happen, mate?
I'll tell you how it happened. Anyone that has played the game Mario Kart understands that there's such thing as auto catch-up. So Alligator Blood hit the front $1.04, got struck by lightning. I'm thunderstruck over the top, got the little lightning, made him smaller, and then he curled up and over the top, rumbling. How good was the call from Matt Hill?
That was brilliant.
Rumbling hard.
Brilliant call, brilliant race. What a horse I'm thunderstruck is. Just his desire to win is amazing.
Yeah, it was very impressive.
All right, let's get to Randwick. We've got 3 races to touch on at Randwick. As I said, 23 degrees. A lot of rain around on Thursday. Hopefully we get to a 6 or a 7, probably at worst. Drying day on the day, rail in true, which should make it pretty even. I wouldn't be surprised if they're off fence with the camber and run there.
Yeah, there was a similar meet, I think it was the 6th of August, that was rail true and in the soft range, and they sort of got a few lanes off. And the overwhelming history with this sort of setup is it will be fair enough, but they'll probably get away from the inside few lanes.
I agree with you there. Yep. I think we're in agreement in the first race here, the T rows, the Group 2, 1,400 metres. I'm heavily with Zougotcha, my bet of the day. Just brings different form now as well, which is the interesting point. But this horse is airborne. I love the setup. Can't fault Zougotcha. Comes through the Silver Shadow. She beat Willinga Beast comfortably there. Willinga Beast then came out and was fantastic, running second in a Furious. The form ties in. Yeah. Had a nice run in Transit, Zougotcha, but that form through In Secret now reads sensationally. Didn't go through that last run. Mid-prep Waller trial, a profile I absolutely love. Clearly the horse to beat for me, Zougotcha, and I'll be laying everything else in the race and back in Zougotcha.
Well, she beat Willinga Beast. She beat North Star Lass, who came out and beat Willinga Beast. And they all come through that. Sorry, they all come through that race day fortnight ago, where complete mess with the way the track played. Right? Well, Zougotcha had to go back the inside, which they'd avoided. So she was absolutely brilliant. She was brilliant, and like you mentioned, that mid-prep trial. There's something that I notice a lot with Waller horses, and I'm probably just making this up, but a lot of their trials that are really good, they dart back the inside. Have you ever noticed that?
No, I haven't.
Anyway, but she did that. She sort of darted back the inside.
Oh, yeah, you do see it a bit.
Yeah, and
they
sort
don't,
of...
They don't like Godolphin come out wide and just let them run down.
Yeah, she sort of went through the inside and worked through the line really well. I thought, as far as mid-prep trials go, you're licking your lips. And
especially that Waller profile off of mid-prep trials.
Barrier 5, James McDonald, and that In Secret form, well, she's now a rightful favourite for the Golden Rose after what she did on the weekend. And even if she got out in time, I don't think she was beating Zougotcha that day anyway.
So we're both in agreement. Zougotcha, I think you've got it your best too, do you?
Yeah, I'm real keen.
There you go. Love that. Any lays, anything you don't like in the race, or you're just happy to load up Zougotcha?
No, I'm just happy to back that. Yeah.
Gamble responsibly, obviously.
Yeah.
Let's head to the Group 1, the George Main Stakes. What a clash this is. I hope Zaki runs, because it will be a mouth-watering affair. Rather than going to the Underwood next week and starting $1.20, run here against Animo. We want to see it. Come on.
We
just want it not to rain in Sydney.
Don't go to the Kelly Underwood, mate. You stay here. You go to the Group 1 in Sydney. Give us what we want.
Is it named after Kelly, you reckon?
Probably not. I wonder if any of those silks will go around wearing orange. Here comes the orange horse.
Very good. A lot of people won't know what you're talking about there. GWS. Yeah. Let's... Race 7, obviously we talked about the Group 1, 1,600 metres. Animo, Zaki, can anything else win, or which way are you leaning?
No, nothing else can win. And the way I've priced the race is $2.50 the pair. So when that comes up and Animo's $2.10 and Zaki's $3.20, well, I just bet Zaki. And I know he had those favours in terms of track pattern first up, but his overall time was good. He still got eyeballed till like the 150, and then he pulled away. And
did you worry for a second that he was going to get that?
Yeah, I did. And then I thought that made the win even more impressive that he found. And he was going to win running away. And then the jockey was very soft on him in the last 50 metres. And that sort of made it look like Ice Bath was charging and was going to get him. But she was never getting anywhere near him. And he's just a good horse. He'll probably lead. I don't read anything into James McDonald.
I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
Well,
where's your bread buttered?
Yeah.
Like, how many more good horses and rides is he going to get from Godolphin? You know? Like, if it was a Coolmore horse,
You're saying
he'd go with
Annabelle
Coolmore.
Neesham doesn't hold as much weight?
No, well, obviously she's a gun, but it's a big
It's a play. That's why he rides for Coolmore,
ownership.
right?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Makes
so
sense.
I don't read anything into that whatsoever. Tommy Berry goes on. He'll probably go to the front again, Zaki, or sit outside the leader. And with the map the way it is, Animo needs to run him down. Now, can he run him down? Of course he can. He was outstanding first up. He was another one, went to the inferior ground, won brilliantly. But he has to run him down. And he's a bloody good horse, Zaki, so I'm happy to be with him.
Yeah, I love your argument. You're backing the horse that's going to be in front, and you've priced them both similarly, and you're getting better value for Zaki. I can't argue with any of that. I'll probably tip Animo on top a little bit. The one thing that worries me a little bit, and might be a bit of a pox on Animo's form, and you can see why you'd come for Zaki. Brings that different form, Zaki. Fangirl was enormous behind Animo as well, so ties in. I wouldn't be surprised if Fangirl gets closer to Animo. Animo's regressed second up as well in the past. Fangirl ties in, could upset the Avocado. A big opinion of Fangirl, but she might need it firm.
Yeah.
Animo on top, but if I was betting, I'd probably lean the way you are. Back to value because they're hard to split. And if you're betting in play, you could take shorter odds or back Zaki now and lay off when it hits the front. And play it that way as well.
Yeah.
So probably trades shorter than Zaki is at the moment. So that's the feature there, the Group 1. Let's get to race 8 at Randwick, the shorts. I should put these races in a lay bin. Like, what a good race it looks on paper. But it's a $1 million Group 2 race. That's a barrier trial. These could be Randwick on a Tuesday, this field, and barrier trialling, and there's only 3 or 4 that really care if they win.
Oh, you're spot on. It's hard, isn't it? He's had one trial, Nature Strip, but he's obviously got residual fitness. He went a lot deeper last preparation than what he normally does going over to Europe and being so impressive, and the trial was good. Like, he's the best sprinter in the world. What do you expect? Eduardo, he was outstanding first up. He had that pattern, but geez, he put a hole in him, and geez, he ran time as well. So he's got that fitness
And
edge.
he drifted.
Yeah.
Amazing.
I know. I nearly drove off the freeway trying to save on him when he hit 280. drive responsibly.
Get responsibly, drive responsibly.
Yeah, but it's a tough one. I'm not having a bet in the race, but Marzu can't win, can he? He's already got a slot in the Everest, and he's got to be.
That's the point.
Like, he's got to step up.
If Mizzou didn't have a slot in the Everest, I'd actually give him a push here.
Yeah,
but he's not here to win because he's got that slot. He's
Yeah.
another one that's just essentially trialling. But
he needs to run a big new peak first up with bigger targets.
The query for me, I said, my comment on him was the wetter the better. If it's a heavy 10, but that also brings Eduardo with the race fitness into it. So either way, I don't think I can beat Eduardo.
Yeah. He's too short. He shouldn't be single figures.
The huge query for me, and I probably won't bet in the race because of it, Nature Strip's such a profile horse. He goes first up, he performs. Second up, he doesn't. This is a completely different setup coming back from the UK off a short break. I just don't know how to treat him.
No idea.
Like, I just got no idea what to do with him.
Fascinating race.
If he turns up, he wins.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, can't play. So,
No.
Eduardo, Nature Strip, got to be in the mix. Mizzou's in the mix. Mask Crusaders returned to his best. I think he's trialling really well. 1,100 metres too short. Got a slot in the
Another
Everest,
doesn't want it too wet. Scratch that.
Doesn't want it too wet. Glorified barrier trial. Bjorn Borger, overpass. He'll be looking for this horse to run a race up on speed. Lacks a bit of class, but he's been pushing this at every opportunity. Winning trials by about 14 lengths. Bjorn Baker horses at the moment.
Yeah, they are.
I don't know what's going on.
President in that race with Crosstalk. I wonder where Crosstalk goes. He's another dual acceptor.
Yes. Let's get stuck in a track bias in terms of education, Sults. And before we get into our best bets, just quickly, education segment. Now, talked about speed maps 2 weeks ago and last week with Fitzy and how you went about doing them. Speed maps flow into track bias. What do you want to talk about in terms of track bias? Obviously, you identify track bias early, but what do you look for when looking for track bias and stuff like that, and how does it affect your punting?
Well, I do a fair bit of early betting, so I sort of need to be on top of what the history shows so you can have the odds in your favour. And we spoke about what's the first thing you look at. Well, it's the weather.
Yep.
So the first thing we've looked at is the weather for Caulfield and Randwick and the wind as well to see, like I know at Caulfield if it's a northwesterly, if it's raining, it's probably going to be off the fence. So you can try and predict what might happen because a lot of the time I'm betting on things I think are over the odds, so I want to get set early. But then if that changes throughout the day, you can then find other bets in the race based on what the pattern is doing. So it's one where history generally points you in the right direction, but you still do need to think on your feet on the day if some bias eventuates, like the other week at Randwick with that on-pace bias.
I think, and you great points, I think also we say on-speed bias or on-pace bias, but a lot of it's actually mistaken for on-speed or leader bias when it's actually on-fence bias. Like, so you can see it in Sydney all the time, Canterbury the same.
Yeah.
Horses obviously go to the front and they say it's leader bias, but horses behind lead, three back the fence on that faster ground. Like Randwick 2 weeks ago, it would have been a soft 7 on the inside lane and a heavy 10 outside of that, right?
Yeah.
So I think it's inside bias a lot of times rather than leader bias. You identify it. You obviously pick it up early. You look for trends, previous meetings, as you said. Also identify it early. You can get an edge. If you're expecting it to happen, I expected to be Randwick to be up and in last week, a fortnight ago. I didn't expect it to be as ridiculous as it was, but you're looking for that trend early.
Yeah.
Also, how it affects your play and your betting throughout the day. I think you've got to be adaptable. I often bet late in the piece now because I try and get as much information as possible. And we've seen so many bias tracks in recent times that you just have to be adaptable. You tip something, we tip something on this show, but you might change your mind. Like Andermatt, perfect example. You were heavily Andermatt a fortnight ago.
Yeah.
You suddenly realised it was back and wide on a track that you couldn't win from there.
Yeah.
Despite a firm, you might have changed your mind, right?
Yeah.
So you've got to be adaptable. That's a key one. If you identify a track bias and you're expecting it, you can also play with the market on Betfair. Bet in play. Eduardo finds a front easily or doesn't find the front but settles outside lead or whatever it might be.
Yeah.
Something finds a front that you like, take the price in play.
Yeah.
Or something's back and wide. It doesn't find the fence that you expect to find the fence. You can lay it in play as well.
Yeah.
So a few little secrets there. Anything to add?
No, not particularly. It's because it is, you know how we said maps flow into it as well. And then once the first half of the card eventuates and you can see the bias, that the races actually do become a little bit harder to map.
Oh, that's
too.
that's my
so it
pet
doesn't
hate.
make things easy. All I'll say is I'd much rather the fence be off than on fire.
Let's talk about rail movements.
Yeah.
They move the rail, which provides patterns, and certain rail movements obviously impact rail. True, at Randwick can often lead, and especially with the wind. Wind has an impact on bias, but especially at Caulfield and Randwick. But there's a chain of thought that says leave the rail in the true. You won't get these fence bias days, and jockeys will find the best place to go.
Yeah, there is that chain of thought, but
Track managers hate it.
if you're Randwick and you're backing up every 2 weeks and it's wet like it is
Everest
always, and
peaking.
it's always true. Well, by a few months' time, the track is going to be an absolute disaster. So I'm not against the movements. I understand why they happen.
Yep.
Yeah.
Interesting. All right, time for the wrap. Best bets, best lays. I think we're both in agreement. Randwick, race 6, number 5, Zugotcha, for all the reasons we highlighted above. You're on the same boat?
I actually think we're getting a good price at $2.70.
I've had something on.
Yep.
Yep.
Yeah,
So
very keen.
take Zugotcha there. Interesting to see what the market does. Your lay?
I'm going to lay Camel Passer, Morphettville race 8.
I haven't done this race, but it interests me. I just saw your notes. Calypso Rain is airborne, as you said here.
Good race. He's had 2 jump outs. The first of them on synthetic. He's moving well, and he has won first up, but he needs to win first up. And he's one of mine. He's got a good racing pattern.
Yep.
Too.
Yep.
So potentially if he finds the front, he's one you can lay in play because 1,100 metres heavy track on a day where I think that the inside will chop out too. He's got 62 kilos. A horse like Calypso Rain, absolutely airborne. We spoke about the Moonee Valley pattern the other week. Charged home.
Great run.
Against the pattern. Put a hole in Behemoth the start prior and get 6 kilos off him under these weight conditions. This is a quality handicap. So I think he flies home and even taunting at the weights, runs figures that can win the race, but is up in class. I'm going to be in the corner of Calypso Rain, and I don't think Kemble Passer can win first up with the big weight.
I like your thinking there. I'm going to have a look at that race and study that in depth. So you're against Kemble Passer, your lay of the day, Morpheville race 8, number 2. You mentioned O President. I'm keen to lay O President in this race behind, I hope Crosstalk runs.
Yeah,
I'll be nervous.
He's still in at Newcastle 1,500 metres.
So I'm
I want
worried.
to back him if he's at Randwick.
Yeah. So top ranked, obviously, duly accepted. It could be a nightmare. But if top ranked and top ranked and Crosstalk are running in the Bill Ritchie, I'll be against O President. Maps well, but Crosstalk can lead. Top ranked to be the horse charging home. I just think O President, Bjorn Baker is not a first up trainer. This horse hasn't run well first up in the past. I know he's winning trials for fun, O President, but yeah, huge concern for me with a host of gear changes at a short price. So, I'm against O President at the price if they all run.
He might get impeached, mate.
Who knows? True. Rachel King, barrier 3. Anything to add, mate? We done?
No, other than the fact that I've enjoyed my time with you, mate.
No jazz flute this week. Fitzy brought out the best in you last week. I got a lift, I think.
Yeah, the jazz flute's getting put back.
Until Mr. Mozart runs
again. Where the sun don't shine.
Too good. Thanks for joining us on Laid Back with Betfair. We'll be back to do it again next week. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.